today we will dedicate our class to science.
Okay.
We threaten to faith of God, the religion. So what's the story of science? It's part of the story that we were talking about. So last class, we mentioned that we talked about Adam creation, and the way Moses put it intertwined with the opening up the option of idolatry, because Elohim talked in plural and opening the door for idolater to think there are more than one creator. So with whom did he consult? We said last class, with whoever is mentioned in Genesis chapter 1, from the beginning to the end. So he consulted each item and made a layer in Adam accordingly. So all these consultations actually gave Adam tremendous gifts, but with the price of opening up the idolatry trial option. So Adam will have to be taught to overcome the attraction of idolatry that he actually put in our mind by those consultations. And now we also mentioned last time, a beautiful metaphor that actually we look how amazingly how Moses in his time presented God here as a CEO, as we would say, CEO of a company building a humanoid. First, he established the goal of Adam life and the direction of our history as we move from the 6th day to the 7th. And for establishing that goal, Elohim, we said, consulted with the merciful attribute, YHVH, who rule over the Sabbath, and said to her, let us make Adam in our form and our image. And he made Adam accordingly. So again, this was a tremendous gift to Adam, endowing our life with holiness and joy. But it came with a price, because by speaking in plural, God Elohim opened the door to idolatry to think that YHVH, or the merciful one, and the judge, Elohim, are different God. So Adam will have to be taught, we said, or warned not to fall a prey to this idolatry trap, and he should follow the Torah that teaches oneness. Then we said Elohim, again as a builder, turned to build Adam's body. So for that, he turned to the 6 days. He consulted each day separately, saying, let us, me and you, made Adam in our form and our image. And that was a great gift. And we see the evidence of that consultation in the way we said every embryo developing human mother uterus, each one of us passed through all the stages of evolution, exactly like Moses described here. Then, of course, it was a tremendous gift because it made Adam a part of nature. That's why we can identify with nature, and we therefore can rule over it, understand it, and rule over it as a legitimate king who consults his subject. We are not alien in nature. In nature, we are part of nature. So this was a tremendous gift to Adam, but it came with a cost, because by speaking in plural, here comes the option of idolatry became possible, and people can now worship, or can err and worship, those counselors, those items in nature, days in nature that God consulted with. So they can consult those creatures of the days and either see them as partner of God or replacing God. And actually, we also know this wonderful, amazing thing that Moses actually predict here the course that humanity will take in history following this idolatry trial. So man, we said, is always attracted to God. God calling us, and we want to see and seek Him. So at first we said Adam worshipped creature close to him on the sixth day, like holy cows, beasts, snakes, dragons. But soon Adam became more sophisticated, and he still hear God calling him from nature, deep in nature. So now he look at things deeper, like the creature that were born on the fifth day, the fish, the bird, the crocodile, like the Egyptian did. And soon Adam continued to progress. He said, oh no, they are not so powerful. And you look now in nature deeper into the fourth day, which is celestial bodies, like the Babylonian. Maybe they control us, they are the gods. But soon Adam continued to develop, and he said, no, he looked for things deeper in nature on the third day, like the trees, vegetation, magnificent trees, mountain, fertility, and he worshiped them like Canaanites did. The Canaanites actually were very sophisticated. But soon, and other people like the Greek worship thought God deeper in nature in day two. And they worship the great sea, the Poseidon. And now the next step that Moses predict is that mankind will face items made on the first day, the primordial element of creation, and seek or look for Elohim, the creator, right here. And again, open up the possibility of idolatry. So now, actually, that's where we are now. We still hear. We hear God calling us, Adam, where are you? Come to me. We won't look anymore to the creature, the primitive idols like our predecessors, but we still hear him calling us from day one, let's say, so to speak. And we're looking for him there, and there are our potential idols, so right there. So the question is, do we really worship them or not? We'll see in a minute. So let's go now back to the story of Adam creation. And we said that after having consulting with the 6 days to make our body, Elohim, like a CEO now, turned to the very beginning of the chapter, where it says, at the beginning, Elohim created the heaven and earth. At the beginning, it's actually, at beginning, it means in Hebrew, at the head of the event. So you look at the head of the event, or you look at his head, to the wisdom and science by which he created the universe. And he said to it, hey, wisdom and science, let us make Adam in our form and our image. Then he looked at the science and wisdom in his head, that special wisdom that the universe was created with. And he planted it in our head. So that's why we have our mind is capable now to decipher all the mystery of the universe, to understand it, and to emulate God, to produce technology. So again, the word Bereshit, it's in Hebrew at the head of the event. So the interpretation here is like God created the universe with a head, Bereshit, in his head. So the wisdom and his science in his head, this is a tool that he used to create this universe. What an insight. So the universe is like a clock working with a technology, with the science and technology that actually we can understand because God made our mind, he consulted it and made our mind accordingly. Wow, that was a tremendous gift to Adam. We are Homo sapiens, we are smart animals. And we can use science, we can we can build the iPhone and spaceships, but it came with open the door for idolaters to think that the science can replace God. So let's make a point here. Moses predicts here that, imagine in his time, nobody knew what science is in Moses' time. But he predicts that one day when mankind will discover science as we know it today, he didn't know it in his time. So but the moment mankind discovers science, it will turn it will turn a potential threat to religion, to the concept of God, and to hide God from our eyes. So how is it possible? How did it really happen? Let's see our generation. The scientific revolution took place, as you know, in the 18th century by Kant, the great philosopher of science, who actually founded the foundation of this scientific revolution, and he published the rule and the rule of pure reasoning. So what was before Kant? Let's make it clear. Before Kant, before the 18th century, people saw God's hand in every event in nature. So, for instance, when you sit under the tree and an apple fall on your head, it is God's hand who did it. If a leaf on a tree moves by the wind, it's a God's hand who did it. If a deadly plague hit your city, it is God's hand who did it. So God was perceived as a necessary intermediator between us and nature. So this is what basically people believe for thousands of years, until many still believe it today, like in Islam. It's a very popular belief, not in Judaism. And Kant in the 18th century change all that perception. And by what? By eliminating God from our observation of nature. Kant set up the rule of what he called rule of pure reason. Actually, he established a new religion, the religion of pure reasoning. And he said, rule number one of Kant, that he said to mankind, have the courage, he said, to follow only your own pure reasoning, and have the courage to reject any dogma or theory that imposed on you by any authority, by priest or teacher or king. So it's also political. So by this rejection of autonomy of the individual and the autonomy of pure reasoning, without actually being aware of it, can't actually fulfill what Moses predicted. That the moment you discover science and scientific method, it will challenge the existence of God, and it will open up their possibility, their idolatry. Not only that, but Kant went on to set up a second rule, what he called the rule of the critic of pure reason. famous critique of purism. The rule that is Kant said that when we observe nature and phenomena in nature, we should consider valid only the theories that can be verified by our senses. We can touch, we can sense, we can see, or only theories that can be measured. We should consider only factor that can be measured by our instrument, directly or by instrument, or item that can be tested by experiment in the lab, or expressed by mathematical equations, or another criteria of the critique. We should consider only theories that can produce new product like technology. Otherwise, it's meaningless. All the other theories, according to Kant, they may be charming and wonderful and appealing and cause you an emotional reaction or whatever. You should not use them, discard them when you consider nature, because and move them into what we call the realm of the supernatural, transcendent realm, that you can put there anything you want, because you can never measure that. You can never prove it one way or the other. And when you consider items into science, you use only things that you can measure directly, as you said, or understand or express a mathematical formula, and so on. So let's go back to the example of the apple. So when the apple falls on your head, Kant said, don't consider the God hypothesis as a factor, because God cannot be measured, it cannot be tested, it cannot be described by a mathematical formula. Instead, when you analyze the apple falling, consider only things that you can measure, like gravity, the force of gravity, the mass of the apple, acceleration, repeat it many times, and then write down a mathematical formula that F, the force, is a mass time acceleration square. So now you came up, by writing down the formula, you explain not only the apple, but the attraction of the moon to the earth, or the earth around the sun, because this gravitational force is all over. So that's the way science, according to Kant, should go. In a similar way, for instance, moving to biology, so if you face Ebola plague, don't consider supernatural forces, demon or whatever, but direct your energy to find the cause, the real cause, the cause that can be seen by microscope or experimented by put in an experiment, test it, and they can produce, and you can produce medicine to kill it. Consider only those factors. Don't consider any supernatural forces. So while in the past, God was seen as an intermediator between us and nature, now Kant moved the God hypothesis from our consideration and placed him in what we call and replaced God by science, by pure reasoning. Again, by this, Kant actually fulfilled, again, Moses' prediction here that scientific revolution comes with a threat to religion. It will hide God from our eyes. So unknowingly, Kant actually fulfilled what Moses said. So after Kant, we have only man, science, and the nature. God is eliminated. God hypothesis is eliminated. Now, Kant was not satisfied by that, but he moved on actually to remove God also from the morality, because Kant preached that every individual, by the pure reasoning that we are endowed with, natural pure reasons, so every individual is free, have the courage to accept upon himself only moral behavior as you want, as you consider good. What is good? Can't put one test for it. Good, he said, if we consider good, morally good, the action, if all the other members of your society will agree to accept it as a law upon himself. That's good. So again, Kant eliminated God even from morality. And I believe that our natural, free, pure reasoning is capable of, we know what's best for us, and we follow out what we think good and what other people in our society are good. So now looking back from our perspective, we know how naive Kant was in that perspective, that relying so much on human morality, natural morality. For instance, I give you an example that really unbelievable. Eichmann, you know, the architect of the Holocaust, when he put on trial in Jerusalem, he defended himself. And the major point of his defense was that he was an avid follower of Kant. He followed what the best for the country and what people believed in Nazism. And what he did, he established Auschwitz, he killed millions of people, but that's what he did, because the fellow men in the country believe in it, clap their hand with it, and he feel not guilty because I'm a student of Kant. So you see how naive Kant, because if you rely on your own what's so-called pure reasoning, you can end up with a beautiful uniform, SS, black, beautiful man standing there with a shape of a skull on your head, killing millions, because that's pure reasoning. And another point on Kant that I want to emphasize here, that Kant took another step. He was fascinated by the fact that he realized how our brain works. He was fascinated by the fact that how is it possible that when we look at nature and we come up suddenly with some kind of theories that fit nature. We understand the formula of the Newton of observing the apple falling. We came up with a formula as if our brain is built to understand it, to form now a mathematical formula. That means, as he expressed it, our brain has categories, built-in categories, or that in our brain, that we are born with it, a priori, before birth. We are born, we are made to propose certain rule boxes. We understand nature. So much he was fascinated by this idea that he actually said that our brain actually make nature. Our brain and nature are connected, which actually fits what we today we know from quantum physics. But again, Kant didn't know. For him, it was a surprise. For us, it's not a surprise at all. Because Moses said what? That at our creation, God, Elohim, look at the wisdom and the science by which he created nature, and he made our head accordingly. So we are not surprised at Kant at all. We know that's true. We actually, Moses told us, the Ramban in the 12th century wrote that in his commentary on the Torah, he said that Elohim consulted the wisdom and the science by which he created the world. So that our sages knew about it, Kant didn't. So for him, it was a big surprise. So, so Moses predicted now came true, because the moment science came on stage, human history, and changed our life tremendously to the best. It's a good, it's an excellent, it's a wonderful present that God gave us, making us eligible. We can now rule the universe, we can understand it, but it came with a price, with a challenge, that the success of science actually can hide God from our eyes, especially the technology, the product of science. No, there is no, I mean, cannot deny it. I mean, it's wonderful, the technology that the science produce. That's the criteria of Kant. If the theory is right, it can produce technology. So our technology improved our life tremendously. We cannot compare our life to the life of about 100 years ago. So no wonder that people now feel I don't need God anymore in my life. I can go to the doctor. If I'm sick, I go to the doctor. Why should I pray? I can make a token. I go to the synagogue and maybe pray, give charity. But in fact, I rely on the doctor. So the doctor replaced God in that sense. So again, it's a real threat. The more successful science is, it poses a greater threat to God, apparently only on the surface. But we know that idolatry is not a real thing. Idolatry, if you understand it, you blow away. It can blow away. And that's not, the truth is that science is absolutely not a threat to God. Anyhow, what happened after Kant? So people after Kant continued to use science to challenge the Bible from different perspectives, from history, science of history, from archaeology, from geology, biology, astronomy, from all sides. Scientists start to attack passionately the Bible and try to destroy it. Let's say from archaeology and history, you know the story, Bible critics. They claim the Bible critic came long ago, 18th century, 19th century. They said, well, there is no evidence of revelation of Sinai. The Bible was written by different authors, A, B, D, E. Not one author, and it was composed in different time. Some said in the 8th century, without any base of that. Scientists said that historians said the Exodus didn't happen the way it's described. Joshua, I heard classes said Joshua never existed. In Tel Aviv University, they preached for years that David didn't exist because we have no archaeology discovery. Luckily, we do have now proof that David did exist. But for a long time, they challenged even the existence of David. So today, by a miracle, science actually, we can use science to prove the other way around. We can use science to prove the fingerprint of God in nature, and of course, the validity of the Bible. For instance, about the author, we have now the computer code, the famous computer code. I don't want to go to detail, but it shows clearly that the 5 books of Moses was written by one author, and they're written as one package. You can devote the whole class for that. And
Rabbi, I need to understand. You said that there is actually a computer analysis program or code that could go through the text, and it identifies one author.
Yes, the computer code, what we call the computer code. You know, you ask the computer, tell me where is the word Shoah exists in the Bible. So the computer starts to analyze the text, and he analyzes it first. Nowhere the word Shoah exists, but if it goes to divided the space of 2 letters, then 5 letters, then 50 letters, Then you find out the Shoah exists. Where? Exactly in Deuteronomy, where God cursed the Jewish people, that if they mess up, he will bring something else to, he will hide his face. So that occurs. Amazingly, that the word Holocaust, Shoah, appear right there, but in naked eye, you don't see it. You need a computer to see it in from the beginning of, it's amazingly sit on the text from the beginning to the end, 50 letters apart, you see the word Shoah. Or the Torah, I'll give you the beautiful example of one author. The word Torah, you ask the Bible, the computer, tell me where the Torah exists. So I said in book of Genesis, Torah exists again in 50 letters apart. Bereshit, the first staff, then you count 50 letters Vav, count another 50 letters, get Reish, then Hey. So Torah appears in the space of 50 letters, the first one. Then you go to the Exodus, listen to that. You go to the Exodus, then you ask him, where is Torah here? If the computer show, oh, it's here too. Taf, Shmot. The Taf, Vav, Reish, Hey appear in 50 letters in Shmot. And so is in the book of the last two one, Bamidbar and the Varim. So so you have like the first two and the last two with the Torah in it. In the middle, there is no Torah, but it says Yud Hey Vav Hey in a space of 7. Now tell me there is no design here.
Right. So you're talking about the Torah code. At first you said a code, and I was thinking of a computer algorithm, but you're talking about the Torah code. We understand that. Gotcha.
No,
yes.
In addition to that, Rod, I also learned that some expert of style and also analyzed the 5 book from the stylist point of view, from the Hebrew, and it came out to the conclusion that must be one author. So again, as we both know about science, we learned that Exodus actually did occur exactly. My friend Jim Long in Arkansas can tell you the tale of the Exodus as he knows the history of Egypt, ancient Egypt, day by day, he can tell you, because he was looking for the Pharaoh, famous Pharaoh. Now he found it years ago. And we know, the more we know some science and archaeology, it actually proved what he was saying. We know exactly who this Pharaoh is. We know the meaning of the name Moses. We know that's a different story. So the more we know from science about history and archaeology, we found out actually that science actually proved God, the validity of the Torah. And then again, going back to the attack of what was made on the Bible by the name of science. So scholars said from geology. So, well, we already analyzed it, that the history of the Earth, as presented by History Channel, the 13 billion years, actually fit precisely what Moses said in chapter 1. So geology, they thought geology will actually bust the Bible and destroy it. In fact, it has proven that the Bible is true. That how amazingly Moses could know such a thing in those days. And it was attacked by cosmology. The Stephen Hawking's famous science, he said, I don't need God to explain the universe. I can explain the universe by mathematical formula, by understanding. I don't need the God hypothesis at all. Nowadays, we actually found out that that's not true. There are many things in the cosmos, for instance, how the cosmos is built in such precise way that life can evolve on Earth. It's amazing if the chance for life to develop, just the chance of life to develop on Earth is so minuscule that you must believe that there is some intelligent mind that set up Earth in this position and the galaxies scattered in this line. A lot of evidence for that. And the story of evolution, Darwin came and tried to destroy, in the name of Darwin, they tried to destroy faith by saying that evolution occurred by genetic mutations and natural selection. Well, if you sit down and write down the chances that a random mutation will produce only one protein, not to say whole being or animal, one protein, it takes 10 with 84 0 years, which is much more than the life of the universe to fulfill. So in order to create just one protein at random, by the random mutation, there was not enough time in universe, life, to explain it. And of course, the question of so biology. Another question: how come if evolution works just by chances and mutation, how come most of the animals on Earth happen on what we call the fifth day, or what is fifth science on the Cambrian period, that suddenly in the sea there was such an explosion of animals? It cannot be by chance. And what about the DNA? Who put the information there? The first life was planted on our planet with monocellular cell. It was equipped already with DNA. And DNA is a computer with information. So tell me it came by chance? Again, somebody make the calculation, the chance of that happening by random, there's not enough time to even start it. It cannot be. So now many scientists come up with the idea today to restore the God hypothesis. Book written by Stephen Meyer, Meyer, Return of the God Hypothesis.
Interesting.
I recommend this wonderful book because he's such a knowledgeable person. And he presents you all these factors that cannot be explained by what people believe, random mutation in the cosmos, as if we are here by random. All that is blah, blah, false. And in fact, the more we know from science, it supports the God hypothesis. Mm-hmm. So we can read it.
Rabbi, can I present an idea and have you just comment on it? It's been my thought that the reason why over the progression of the awakening and philosophers, et cetera, that God has been set aside is because most people's concept of God comes out of a Christian concept of God, that he is somehow corporal. He's an old man in the sky and a sun down below, and they've left out the fact that the Jewish idea of God, he has no body, he's pure essence, pure energy. Everything emanates from him, including when light and energy came into the world, he infused it with our DNA code, the whole 9 yards. I think they've missed the fact that that's what needs to be explored, because that fits along with what science has been saying, especially with physics, etc.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, wonderful. Yes. So now, we can talk more about this line, but now we are facing the challenge of technology, mm-hmm. which is really a threat to science, because most people actually don't replace the science, God with the science. So how could us, Noahide, let's say, how should Noahide regard science? what perspective you should put it. So I think the best way is to think about Noah's Ark. So what is Noah's Ark?
Could you repeat what word are you saying? Noah Hag?
Ark, A-R-K. I don't hear you. I lost your voice.
Yeah. So you're saying Noah's Ark?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
So think about Noah's Ark. Now, think about it. Elohim, God, when the flood came, he wanted to save Noah. He could have saved Noah by creating a miracle around him, like a bubble. Or he could say the rain, don't touch him. Instead of doing that, God turned to Noah and said to him, build a floating device called ark with the dimension. And the dimension he gave you are perfectly scientifically sound. Because if you repeat the shape of a pyramidal shape and the dimension and you build it, you get a device, an ark that would never capsize. The Talmud said that many people tried to do it, and they really found out that they built wonderful ark that cannot be turned over on the water. It stayed floating, and especially when it's people sit in it and the food is downstairs, so the gravity center actually below the water, and the ark can wobble on the surface, but it will never sink and never turn out capsize. So this metaphor, God wanted to send us a message that you see, outside the ark, nature came, calamity came, destroyed the universe. The interface between Noah and nature is the ark as concept. So the science is that Noah ark. We build science to protect us from nature, to help us to use nature, and so on. But inside the ark, as you know from the text there, it was a merciful one. Actually, we closed the door and didn't allow the water to come in. Not only that, but the Midrash says that the light, the warmth, fill the ark inside, and endow peace and joy into joy. Of course, it didn't have any joy when other people dying, but they were under protection of YHWH. Under her, when she ruled over the inside of the ark, the lion or the wolf didn't prey on the sheep. The snake didn't bite the child. And there was a peaceful life there. So here's a metaphor. While we use science as an interface between us and nature, we use the Torah and God to run our inner life, our home, our moral life, which is above nature, has nothing to do with nature. It's from the Torah. So God is our shelter inside the Noah ark in a personal life. That's what I thought to give you today about science and the challenge to God